Welcome to Remnants of a Sound Blast. This is episode 3, and today we will discuss what was the very first album that you owned. Was it on vinyl, CD, cassette, even 8-track? I'd love to hear from you. Post your comments below. Let me know what you thought about that album when you first received it. Was it something that you knew about already and you just had to have it? Or was it something that you knew little about but it grew on you over time? And how do you feel about that album today? Originally, I wasn't going to include downloading albums, but I know that's the way a lot of people do get music these days, is through streaming. So if your first album was a download, that's fine as well. Post your comments below. I'd love to hear from you either way. Now, before I tell you about what my first album was, I'm going to give you a history on the time period. So I received this album when I was about 12, 13, maybe even 14. So this was like 85, 86, 87. Somewhere around that time. And hair metal was a real big thing on the radio, on MTV, with my friends. I knew a lot about the hair metal bands because my friends were so into this stuff. So I knew about Motley Crue, I knew about Rat, Cinderella, Poison, Whitesnake, Warrant. But it wasn't until I heard this particular album from this particular band that it really opened my ears and changed my perspective on how I listen to music and various instruments. Bottom line is, this album changed my life. Now, my brother, who is 8 years younger than I am, was about 4 or 5 at the time that I received this record. And he had a small Fisher-Price record player in his room. It was like a thick piece of white plastic. It looked like an ice chest on the outside. And when you open it up, it was a dark orange turntable. And that's what I played this particular album on, and many, many other albums to follow for probably the next 2 years until I was able to save up enough money to buy some decent equipment of my own. And I'll never forget, it had a small speaker on it, and I used to just crank that thing as loud as it could go, especially with this particular album. Now, when I received this, I was in middle school, so I would come home with all the intentions in the world of doing my homework, set my books on a desk, open them up, lay everything out to do my homework, and I would drop the needle on this record. And needless to say, I didn't get a lot of homework done, but I sure did do a lot of listening. That was pretty much my education. And I believe that this album was given to me by the same guy who I had mentioned briefly in episode 1. He turned me on to a lot of music that I still listen to today. So I really have to thank him for this. So my first album was Led Zeppelin II. What a phenomenal rock record. Monumental, groundbreaking, start to finish. I was just captivated by the sounds and the energy of this record. It's just filled with killer guitar work, great bass lines, searing over the top vocals, the phenomenal drumming, just all in one. This is just a phenomenal rock record from start to finish. I was so excited to come home from middle school every day and listen to this. You know you're listening to a great album when you get that same energy and feel from it on 100th listen that you did when you first heard it. So this is the replacement copy that I have with the gold seal, which is pretty cool. And the reason this is a replacement copy is because this is the original. This is the one that I used to play when I was a young kid, 12, 13, 14. And the reason it doesn't play anymore is because this was inside my parents' house when Hurricane Katrina hit. So this was left behind. And when we were able to get back in the area about 3 weeks after the hurricane to assess the damage, I pulled up to my parents' house and I saw this barely sticking out of the front lawn, buried in the grass. I took my shovel out of my truck that I brought along with me and dug it up. And I wasn't quite sure what it was when I first started looking at it, but it's Led Zeppelin II, and I can't tell you the feeling that came over me when I found this. It was so overwhelming. I mean, this album is totally priceless to me now. It holds so much sentimental value, I can't tell you in words. So I actually tried to play this album the other day, but it's pretty much deemed useless from being out in the elements from the hurricane for so many days. I dropped the needle on it, and the cracks and the pops were so loud it was like listening to an album from the 1930s or 40s. But it's still a cool conversation piece, and I wanted to show you guys because I'm so happy to still have it. So there you have it. My first album, Led Zeppelin II. Again, what was your first album? What did you think of it then? What do you think of it now? Please like and share this video. Hit the subscribe button. This is Remnants of a Sound Blast signing off. And until next time, keep rocking and stay safe.